pen and wash, or waterproof pen and watercolour. That's what I'm going to show you today. And this time I'm going to be painting a Rufus Hummingbird. Yeah, just a straightforward painting, which is the size that you can use for a greetings card. So let me show you how to do this, and we'll get them pens out and those brushes wet. Now I've already got the outline drawing on the paper. If you need to know how to do that, I have plenty of videos here on YouTube on what to do. But there's one in particular which I'll pop up there in the top right hand corner. That's the pen and wash tutorial where I go through all the processes of adding the drawing onto the paper and also the techniques I used along the way, especially working with a waterproof pen. Now people say, why is it got to be waterproof, Paul? Well, the thing is, if it's not waterproof, you'll find the pen will just blur. I mean blur, which it will. So I'm going to start going over my pencil marks very lightly. And by the way, the nib size I'm using today is a 01, okay? And the make of this pen is one by Pilot. So Pilot drawing pen. There you go. But there's plenty of other ones on the market as well. So it's a matter of shopping around and seeing what you can find. It really is. So I'm very lightly touching the paper. Just going over those pencil marks at the moment. And then once I've got this on, I'll go over the top of all of it with watercolour. Just to add a bit of life in there, you know? Otherwise it'll just simply be a black and white image. You can do this solely in pen if you want to. So it's just simply pen and ink, not pen and wash or pen and watercolour. But that's entirely up to you. Try to have that photograph the size of your painting. That's what I try and do all the time if I can. Sometimes I'll pinch into the photo like that and just kind of have a look at some of the details in there. But normally I'll pinch back out again to a similar size as my drawing or painting. Depends on what you're doing, of course. So I'm just simply going to go around the outlines at the moment, and then I'll start to fill in some more details thereafter. Now there's a variety of techniques that you can use when you're working with a waterproof pen. And I've added some of those into that frog painting. You know, the one, that red-eyed tree frog. Yeah, that one. I don't need to be too precise with this because all I want to do with this painting is keep it fairly simple. And that's because I want it to be more of a pen and wash style, you know. I don't want it too detailed. If you put too much detail in, you find that when you have the colours over the top, the colours won't stand out. And when you're working on the beak, what you might need to do is rotate the paper a little bit. I'm a lefty, so therefore I've got to rotate my paper that way. But you probably have to do it the other way around if you're right-handed. And the reason why I do that, think about natural curve with your hand that you make like that. And that's what I'm doing here. It's not that curved, this beak. It's really straight, isn't it? Slightly curved. But together, you're going to ghost it first of all like that. So ghost it, so you know roughly what you're going to be doing. And then allow that pen to touch the paper, but very lightly. Then you end up with a very fine line like so. With the joint just there for the upper mandible and lower mandible. And they can start to add in just a few little tiny details here and there. Something like that anyway, yeah. Be very careful around the eye. I can see, no pun intended, but I can see an outer eye ring as well, only just. So I'm just going to be very tentative and just pen in the one line first of all. And then inside that line, very lightly. It may not work, so we'll try it first of all, okay? Barely touching the paper again. A slight division there. If it's too much, we just simply fill it in, I know, that's all we need to do. Reserve the white of the paper for that highlight in there. And then fill it in between the outer ring and the eye. Now we've finally got a little bit of life on there. Let's start off with this wing. And all I want to do is extend these lines through a little bit. I'm going to use the pen slightly on its side, so instead of being that sort of usual angle, I'm going to lower it down. So I'm catching more or less the edge of the tip of that nib, only pulling off a small amount of ink. So it's a good way of controlling how much ink comes off that pen, because obviously whatever angle you go at, it's always the same colour ink, isn't it? No change. But you can control it to a certain degree, and that's what I'm doing here. Just by making sure that my lines aren't too thick, really. Another reason for using the size 01 nib. I don't want a thick nib, because obviously they come in a variety of sizes as well. looking at all these different patterns down here and drawing them in. And just a few little details down there, but not much. I don't want to get carried away. I know, it's so easy. As for the top of the head, there's small little tiny circles like this. We'll make sure they're just very light like so. Don't make them too dark. I've already dotted in a bit of a curved line there, so don't go past it. Tiny circles, tiny squiggles, extremely light, but then slightly darker towards the top of the head. So you can darken that just by going over the same area again. That's all I'm doing there, look. Darken it down, don't fill it in though, leave plenty of gaps in between. We want to show that texture there, don't we, really? That's the way to do it. The beak, well, to be honest with you, I'm going to leave it as it is for now, because of the simple fact is when we put the colours over the top, that's going to tone it down anyway. So I don't want to go too dark with that. Then you can start working underneath the beak. Using the same method, notice that it's dark on the right hand side compared to the left hand side. So it's darker down here, then it gets lighter as it works its way across. Also take note of the direction the lines go as well. Because even though we've got this sort of different section here finishing around there, then going down, then across, and then down to roughly about there-ish. We've also got these lines going down here. Very faint, very light. And the angle of that, probably if you think about a clock face, is maybe towards about 7 o'clock, something like that. Draw those in. So squiggles around that area there. We've got the green on the top of the orange. Now I'm going to darken down this right hand side. And once again, just by going over the same lines time and time again, it gets darker and darker as you can see. Then gradually lighting it as you start working your way in. With fewer marks, of course. Looking at the angles again, notice how these angles change down there, by the way. Comes around like a fan, doesn't it, around there? So very lightly just scraping the paper. And you can see I've got a hint of ink coming off that now. They can darken that down here. I'm going to work my way down the chest now, keeping my eye on the line directions. So notice the way that they do vary slightly in places. For example, towards the middle, it's more or less down the length of the body like that, isn't it? So again, bring that pen down, so you got a bit of an angle like that. Not quite, something like that. It won't work like that. No. And then just graze the tip of that pen again. Just put a few suggested lines just in there. That's all you will need. I will say it like that. I sound like a Dalek. Yeah, okay. And just darken this one side again, like we just done up there, look. Because it's really dark on the inner edge, isn't it? But it doesn't go very far over, though. And then when you're working on that body, remember to keep that pen light in places. You don't want too many dark lines in the middle, only more or less towards the edge. Keep an eye on the shapes around the bird, look at the direction those lines are going all the time, and also keep looking back and forth towards that reference photograph. I do that literally every few seconds. I've got a memory like a fish, I know. But because of that, I have to keep looking at that photograph to remember where those details are and the direction those lines go in as well. So I suggest that if you've got a memory like a fish just like me, then you do the same, okay? Now if you have hummingbirds in your backyard, let me know in the comments down below, and also which type they are as well. I'd be interested to know. Just increasing the lines a little bit more, but not by much. And a few odd little scrapes here and there using the side of the pen again, just to lightly darken some of those areas. So you can see on that reference photograph where the slightly darker areas are on each individual feather, but it's not black, which is why I'm scraping the side of the pen again over the paper surface. Just a few odd light details, that's all that needs down there. And then the feet, well, they're quite dark, aren't they? They're not black though. One side is, that right hand side again is quite dark. So you can darken the outside edge. And probably that little tiny toe there. And maybe that little claw there. And maybe this edge here as well. But then the rest of it It's very lightly shading in places. And you don't have to do much at all on these lot. That is just about done. That'll do, I think, for that 1 foot. I'll put another line there. Why not? Be daring. The same on the other foot as well. It's a little bit lighter though. So dark on the outside edge. Can't really see the claws on this foot because I think they curl around. And that'll look better when we get some colour over the top of that as well. And mentioning colours, that's what's coming next. Let's grab a size 2 brush. This one will do. This one is by Rosemary & Co. It's a XP Series 366. There we go. Yeah, quite like those. They have a very long tapered tip. We'll start off with a violety colour. Oh, by the way, all the colours are available on my Patreon channel if you're interested, okay? I've got a variety of colours here which I'll be using. All I want to do is just tint down the feathers. There's a little bit of brown in there actually, isn't there? I can see that. Just a small amount. Maybe thin it down a touch more. It's a little bit too thick, I think. Slightly too rich. There's a hint of blue in that one there, so I'm going to leave that. Well, sort of blue-green, isn't it? Yeah, I need a green as well. Yeah, more colours to make. The same on this wing as well. So each feather, just literally fill in now. However, when you get down there, you can see a touch of blue down there, can't we? So, what I'm going to do is dampen the paper with a clean, damp, not soaking wet brush. Just around here. Like that. Grab some blue. Pop that in first of all. Just so it varies slightly around there. Wipe the brush. Then go back in with the purple. The violety colour there, look. Then add the rest in. I think it's a nice sort of transition between two colours there, doesn't it? Okay, now for the green. So we'll go for this one here. A very bright colour green, isn't it? So I'm going to pop this in. Just around here. Now all these colours are watery at the moment. I don't want to go too thick with these colours. A little bit there. And maybe a touch around this side here as well. Just a tiny amount on top of the head. And underneath the beak. The thing when you look at a photograph is that the more you look, the more you see. I can certainly see more colours in there. I'm also going to go for a bright red. And this is for a patch we can see around here. So as that comes down there, let's work out where this goes. Around there, I think. Too strong. Clean down brush and lightly soften it down. Was a bit strong that, wasn't it? Yeah, just a smart. Just a little bit. And there's a hint of it around there. I need this to dry before I add the orange over the top of that. Now whilst that's drying, let's go for our brown. We'll add that one in. And I mentioned about adding a bit of brown around here. Just a touch. Everything's still nice and watery, remember. And just a touch of brown along the wings as well. Just want to maintain that violety colour in there. So just ease off with this brown, just have a hint of it in there. That's all you need, or something like that. This one you can't really see any brown in there, can you? Not really. You can use a touch of brown just to highlight some of the areas, but that's all you need to do. And a bit of our violety colour over the top of the brown to make it really stand out in places. Now I'm going to go for the orange. It's hopefully dry by now. Once again, nice and watery. Ready for this? Not sure about the colour on the head yet. I might put a little bit more of that violet in there yet. We'll see. So then around the eye. Then we've got a bit of a white mark there. Just on the back of the eye. So reserve that area. Then basically fill it in. Oh, and bearing in mind, we might have to put some more green down here as well. I think we do. And you want to tap and stipple the colour in between those green dots. This is pale around there, so you need to weaken that colour down. Before you do that, let this area dry, then weaken it down. Just hang on for it. If you need to go slightly richer, you can tap in another layer over the top. And it's better when you actually leave it to dry first, because if you leave it to dry, every layer that you add over the top will get richer and richer. So it's certainly worth noting. Drop in the colours where you think they're needed. just by carefully looking at that reference photograph. That's all I'm doing. And I'm not after a photographic representation. Just a pen and wash artistic version, that's it. When you work down the chest, just paint little patches here and there of colour, using the white of that paper in between. Then the further over towards the left you go on that chest, the more you can start to fill it in with colour. But not everywhere. Again, just take note of where those white areas are. Just roughly. You don't have to be too precise with it. Now the wings are nice and dry, I'm going to add a little bit more colour in there, but not much. Nah, you don't need a great deal, do you? Just to separate each individual feather. I've missed this part down there, I need to fill that in. I did it on purpose, honestly. Yeah, okay. I knew you wouldn't believe me. So I'm going to stipple and tap just inside there. Grab some of my brown colour. I won't bother washing the brush. Nah. And then continue these lines across into that area. They just fade in there as well. Then a few little tweaks with a second layer of the same colours again in places. If it's too much like that, give that brush a quick rinse out, give it a dry, and then just lightly soften it back just by touching that colour like that. That just adds that extra sort of depth there by adding more colour in, doesn't it? The same will go for the back of the head. Slightly lighter in places, but not by much. Another layer. Now that layer underneath is nice and dry. This way I can make sure that this section stands out a little bit more than this area here. So look at those deeper tones that you can see within that reference photograph and paint them in. Remember not to start painting detail. I know, it's so tempting, isn't it? It really is. Ease off, control yourself. Then we can go to the beak. I'm going to go for blue. And just one light coat should do. For now anyway, we'll see. Very bright blue on there, isn't it? Extremely bright actually. I'm going to have to tone that down. I can tone that down with a little bit of purple. Then back to blue again and add that on the feet. Now I've got one more colour left over, which is this one here. Quite a dark blue, as you can see here. Very dark blue, sort of a black / blue. That's all it is. And what I want to do, where we've got this white area on the chest, it looks a little bit flat. So what I can do is just very lightly dampen it down with clean water. Don't soak it through though. Very lightly. Grab some of that, far too much in there. I don't need a great deal. I don't, honestly. Add that in, but more to that right hand side again. Just like we did before. If it's too much, you can very lightly soften it back as well. Now, I did mention about another pen and wash, this time of a green-eyed tree frog. Yeah, something different. And it's also the one that gives you more tips on how to work with the pen and wash technique, with a variety of different pen techniques along the way. Hope you like it. I'll see you there.